Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. I am the Council President. Thank you so much for coming here today for our public hearings. This is agenda item 1. It's a public hearing on the FY27 operating budget and FY27-32 Public Services Program and Fiscal Policy for Montgomery County Government, Montgomery College, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, WSSC, and Montgomery County Public Schools. Committee work sessions on the FY27 operating budgets and FY27-32 Public Services Program and Fiscal Policy for Montgomery County Government, Montgomery College, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, WSSC, and Montgomery County Public Schools will be scheduled through the end of April. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time. Please do not boo or comment or clap when somebody's speaking. If you feel excited because somebody said something nice, you can do like this. But do not make noise. So I'm gonna call on the first 6 speakers. So if you hear your name, please come forward. Linda Vergoski, I messed up that one probably. Shannon Babe Thomas, Abe Shukman, Akansha Singh, Esther Wells, Jali Fernando, or Hali Fernando. We're gonna start with Miss Linda. If you can please turn on your mic, and you all have 3 minutes. You may begin.
Madam President and distinguished members of the County Council, my name is Linda Brogowski, and I'm the co-chair of the Montgomery County Commission on Aging. The Commission is gratified that the County Executive allocated $78.8 million for aging and disability services. However, we'd like to call your attention to 2 programs we identified as budget priorities that do not appear to be adequately represented in the County Executive's budget. First, in-home respite is a program that provides temporary occasional care for frail elderly, adults, and children with disabilities to give relief to family and other primary caregivers. In-home respite is the #1 service requested by caregivers, and one that is available to all residents regardless of income. It allows caregivers to stay on the job, while older and disabled residents can stay safely in their homes. The FY27 budget request assumes the same number of clients that will be served in fiscal 25 will be the same in fiscal 26 and 27. No growth in the number of clients. All evidence points to demand for this service growing at an astronomical rate, geometrically increasing, as the proportion of older and disabled adults grows. We believe it is better to plan and budget for the actual anticipated need rather than artificially constraining demand through an insufficient budget request. We should not rely on emergency appropriations, for which, thank you for that, but we respectfully request additional funding upwards of $250,000 to ensure that we have a robust and equitable respite program. Second, Montgomery County is home to more villages than any other place in the country. Villages provide family caregivers and care recipients with personal support that enables them to continue to live in dignity in their communities. Volunteer-powered villages also save the county and state money by keeping people in their homes and avoiding institutionalization. The FY27 budget includes funds for a villages coordinator, and her role is to support current and emerging villages. But we can do better for the chronically, historically underserved areas up county and in East County, where there are no villages. Specifically, we asked for $60,000 in competitive grants to fund organizations that would like to start villages in these areas. By not focusing on villages in these underserved areas, the county is perpetuating inequities in quality of life, access to services, and even outcomes for thousands of residents. We urge the council to fund what the evidence shows works. And what
Thank you so much. You can
Can I
send
finish
her
my sentence?
sentence, yes.
Thank you. And what delivers a positive return on investment, and for the commission, that is respite care and the villages. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Babe Thomas.
Good afternoon. My name is Shannon Babe Thomas, and I'm the Executive Director of Community Bridges. I first want to thank you all for your ongoing support of our work. We could not serve the girls and families of Montgomery County without each of you. But I'm here today to urge your support for an 8% cost of living adjustment for the county nonprofit contracts. The 2.5% inflationary increase in the executive's proposed FY27 budget is simply just not enough. Nonprofits are being asked to do more with less, and without this adjustment, we risk service disruption and staff burnout. I want to share a story with you about Rosa and her daughter Wendy. In December, Rosa's husband was detained, leaving her to care for Wendy alone. Overnight, she faced impossible choices: how to pay for rent, how to feed her family, keep Wendy in school, and most importantly, keep her connected to Community Bridges. Community Bridges connected her to rent assistance and food resources while she was looking for work. Today, we continue to provide case management and wraparound services for many families like Rosa's, ensuring that they not only survive, but have a path forward. Rosa is just one of the many families we see every day. Across the county, our families are struggling with housing instability, food insecurity, mental health crises, and economic distress. The needs are growing deeper, more complex, and more time intensive. Our staff are working harder than ever, providing intensive follow-up and high-quality programming, yet real wages are declining. Many frontline staff are already paid well below a living wage. Some are taking second jobs just to make ends meet, and burnout is accelerating. We are doing all of this while continuing to deliver our core programs, our after-school program, our college access and success, and academic support. And we remain on track this year, which I'm very proud of. 100% of our seniors will graduate from high school, and every single one of them has been accepted into a college or university, many the first in their families. I've also been a part of a coalition of 18 of the county's large safety net nonprofits. We've been meeting for over a year and examining the growing needs in our sector. Across all of our organizations, the challenges are the same: surging demand for services, rising costs, and increasingly strained workforce. Meanwhile, operation costs are continuing to rise. Insurance premiums are up 11%, rent is up 5%, and energy, healthcare, transportation, I could go on and on, costs are climbing. Administrative demands have grown, pulling resources away from our direct services. Without an 8% COLA, experienced staff will leave, capacity will shrink, and the critical services our families rely on will be at risk. An 8% COLA is not an expansion. It is a survival measure for nonprofits, for our staff, for the families who need us more now than ever. Please invest in the resilience of our community and ensure families like Rosa and Wendy have the support that they need to thrive. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Abe Shukman.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and members of the County Council. My name is Abe Shukman, and I'm the CEO of Housing Unlimited. I also serve on the Executive Committee of the Montgomery Housing Alliance. I thank you for the opportunities to submit this FY27 operating budget testimony. Housing Unlimited, as you may know, our mission is to promote community integration and independence for individuals in mental health recovery. We do it, we've been doing it for the past 32 years. We purchase homes throughout Montgomery County. And last month we closed on our 96th home, and we're serving 263 people. Most of the people coming to us are coming to us from Montgomery County homeless shelters. We have over 200 people on our waiting list. I really want to thank you because for the last several years, your leadership has been outstanding in your commitment to affordable housing, and I really, really appreciated it. I also want to publicly thank Director Scott Bruton of DHCA and all the wonderful staff who we've had the privilege of working with, including Pofin Salem, Lawrence Cager, Ray Slade, Trivens Carbo, and Joyce Wallace Dennis. We're fortunate to have such outstanding public servants partnering with us here in Montgomery County. Housing Unlimited has greatly benefited from your funding. We've used millions of dollars in loans to be able to purchase homes, rent subsidies to enable us to write down the rents to serve people who maybe have as little as $700 a month in income. and of course emergency rental assistance on the occasion when a tenant is experiencing financial difficulty. The proposed county budget of approximately $100 million for preservation and production is a wonderful commitment, but it is $20 million below what has been the funding level the last couple of years. In addition, the affordable housing development community has $169 million in affordable housing projects in the pipeline for FY27. $169 million is the need to fully fund these projects. We're currently at $100 million, obviously a $69 million gap. I don't envy your position. I know it's a very difficult fiscal year. This is one-time only money that we're requesting, so it would not, of course, contribute to the structural deficit. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Akansha, can you please turn on your mic? There you go.
My name is Akanksha Sinha. I am a Silver Spring resident and a member of the MoCo Food Justice Coalition. I am also the advocacy manager at Manna Food Center, although I'm speaking on my own behalf. Today, I'm asking for expanded trauma-informed food access for vulnerable communities in our county. When I was a 16-year-old growing up in India, I was raped by a childhood friend. Many who are raped as minors become repeat survivors of rape and other forms of sexual violence. After coming to Georgetown University, where rape culture and racism were pervasive, I too became a multiple-time rape survivor. Studies have confirmed what I knew as true from my own experience. Rape survivorship often leads to food insecurity. I have spent hundreds of dollars of work-study earnings on complex PTSD medication that my insurance wouldn't cover, which left little to no funds for food. My PTSD has been a connector to other vulnerable members of our community. Within our Food Justice Coalition, many of our members are formerly incarcerated persons who are unable to access employment, housing, and food. One FJC member and I bonded over his PTSD from being a veteran who witnessed the gruesome deaths of innocent civilians abroad and his own troopmates. He was eventually incarcerated due to his PTSD-driven response against the perpetrator of rape upon his underage niece. Our stories are those of surviving systemic failures and painful gender-based violence. PTSD doesn't just live in the brain. It disrupts our biological processes. Symptoms like hypervigilance cause the body to be constantly activated. PTSD and chronic pain are comorbidities. Those with PTSD have higher risks of heart diseases, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune diseases, and more. PTSD leads to unimaginable biological stress on the body, making daily life, including working and feeding oneself, extremely difficult. The intersection between survivorship and incarceration is particularly important. Besides the fact that incarceration itself is significant trauma, studies show that up to 95% of women incarcerated in the U.S. have experienced domestic or sexual violence at some point in their lifetime. Experts refer to this as the abuse to prison pipeline. Moreover, every year, roughly 200,000 adults and children are sexually abused behind bars. Over 3,700 Marylanders allege systemic child sexual abuse at the hands of the staff of Maryland's own juvenile justice system. Survivors like myself and formerly incarcerated residents of this county deserve access to housing, food, and trauma-informed care. I urge the council to invest in trauma-informed programming for these groups within the Office of Food System Resilience's Community Gardening Program, especially through the protection of the $150,000 Food Systems Education Enhancement. The county must supplement the OFSR budget by $3.5 million to reflect continually increasing levels of need and to ensure that there are no reductions across any OFSR programs. These investments would allow impacted community members to access therapeutic gardening, build self-sufficiency, and ensure positive contribution to our communities. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming and sharing your story. Next, Esther Wells.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, Council members, and community members. My name is Esther Wells. I am a CPA, a lifelong resident of Montgomery County, President of the Montgomery County Taxpayers League, and a candidate for County Executive. I strongly urge this council to reject both the property and income tax increases and eliminate the estimated structural deficit. A total reduction of $446 million is required. We must operate under the core belief that the primary role of government is to fund public safety, education, and transportation. This requires tempering pay adjustments to reflect the actual economic conditions of our residents. Leadership requires logic, not feelings. Stay within the data-driven spending affordability guidelines. Due to 8 years of failed leadership, lack of fiscal discipline, tax and spend policies, inadequate oversight and accountability of taxpayers' funds, we no longer have the luxury of framing the FY 2027 budget around priorities. We are forced to look at this budget through the lens of taxpayer affordability. Mark Elrich has proposed an $8 billion budget that does not protect taxpayers. It makes life less affordable and worsens our economic competitiveness. It's time for our elected officials to pass a budget that acts its wage, lives within its means, and does the hard work now, before we hit a point of no return. Taxpayers live within their means, so must our government. In this stagnant climate, safety net programs alone will not win the day. Prioritizing the ask of special interest groups that fund your campaigns is not just unethical, it is a conflict of interest and the reason Montgomery County is struggling. You have bitten the hand that feeds you, forgetting that taxpayers are the engine of this county. Without policies that attract and retain them, we are left with stagnant income and weakened revenue. In February, council staff reported that our economic conditions are noticeably worse than a year ago. Personal income growth for taxpayers is stagnant at 1%, yet this budget proposes pay adjustments between 6 and 9%. Why are these raises not based on competitive review of worker salaries, a study that hasn't been done since 2011? To make matters worse, Elrich proposes using $182 million in one-time rainy day reserves to fund ongoing expenditures. It is financially illiterate and fiscally undisciplined to propose both massive tax hikes and a projected structural deficit of over $257 million next year, requiring another 9.85-cent tax increase to close the deficit. This is next-level incompetence, and it's quite frankly dangerous in this economic times. We can't afford 4 more years of tax and spend budgets. Let me be clear as to who is accountable for defunding your family's future. Mark Elrich, Will Gerando, Kristen Mink, and Lorianne Sales. These 4 have failed to improve the quality of life, failed to make housing affordable, and failed to equalize outcomes for low-income students. They have not earned another term. Vote them out.
Thank you. We're not campaigning here, guys. I just want to say that for a moment. I know, are you Ms. Fernando? Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Hallie Fernando, Executive Director of the Mid-Atlantic Off-Road Enthusiasts, or more. I'm here to urge the council to fully fund the Parks Department. For fiscal year 2027, the Parks Department requested a 6.3% increase over the prior year's budget. This increase will cover the work the department is already doing, and no additional funding has been requested for new or expanded programs. Unfortunately, the county executive's recommended parks allocation will result in a budget shortfall of $3.1 million. This will affect the department's ability to deliver core services and programs. Just a week ago, Germantown was awarded the Trail Town designation by the International Mountain Bicycling Association. This national recognition honors places that have made exceptional commitments to developing, stewarding, and celebrating trail systems that strengthen community life. It also recognizes the extensive world-class natural surface trail system that Montgomery Parks manages. The 200-plus miles of trails in the county support healthy lifestyles, local economies, and safe outdoor recreation access for all ages and abilities. But the county didn't get there overnight. It took years of investment and leadership from the council, and I hope the council continues to fully fund the important work the Parks Department does. You've heard me and other members of MORE speak up for Parks budget before, and you may know us as that group of mountain bikers, but we understand that the Parks Department provides much more than just places to ride our bikes. Their work includes other important community resources like activity buildings, nature centers, playgrounds, campsites, cultural and historical sites, ball courts, athletic fields, and more. These are safe places for families to be outside, for communities to gather, and for children to learn and spend time off the screen. The Parks Department also provides valuable valuable programming for student athletes, seniors, people with disabilities, and families who may not be able to afford certain fee-based activities. So again, I respectfully urge the council to approve the requested 6.3% budget increase for parks and support all of these amazing resources and programs that make Montgomery County a healthy, vibrant, and desirable place to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to each of you for coming today. I'm going to call on the next panel. Robert Pestronk, Maria Brancon, Angie McCarthy, Fraser Blaylock, Nick Logan, Elizabeth Tuen, and Lisa Carrier Baker. We'll start with Mr. Robert. Please turn on your mic. The bottom. There you go.
Good afternoon. I'm Robert Pestronk. I have 3 requests. First, fully fund the county parks operating budget at the 6.3% increase requested by parks rather than the 4% increase proposed by the county executive. Second, fully fund the county health department's budget at the amount proposed by the county executive. And third, fully fund the Department of Environmental Protection. Operating budgets for these 3 departments at these levels in total would comprise but a small fraction of any county budget adopted. A focus on county parks. Their request won't support any new programs. Instead, it's based on lowering the required lapse rate for positions already approved by the council but unfilled. These additional positions would support trail and other park maintenance, police staff for parks, and professional trades staff with rare but essential skills needed to keep park property safe, presentable, and operational. The parks budget isn't an abstraction to me. I regularly use 5 county parks, especially those in the southwest corner of the county where I live. I notice when lawns aren't mowed, when garbage rots in containers, when equipment is broken or dangerous or poorly maintained. I also observe the slow degradation and erosion of park infrastructure as a result of staff's inability to maintain ground properly. Preventing these and other problems should be a high priority for all council members. This work does not come free. Friendship Heights, where I live, is the most densely populated area in Montgomery County. Based upon preliminary ideas from County Planning Department for Friendship Heights Sector Plan, now under revision, parks will be used more heavily as the sector becomes more densely populated. This will threaten, place further demands on, erode, eliminate, and degrade park space further. Yet these spaces are essential, detoxifying, and stress-reducing. They are life-giving, life-supporting, and life-affirming features for health and well-being. As an older resident of the county, I take special interest in parts of the county budget which affect me directly. As a former county official in another state and a former elected official in this one, I recognize the challenging competition and difficult trade-offs inherent in budget decisions. Nonetheless, I state my request as I opened my comments. Please fully fund the operating budgets of county parks, the county health department, and the Department of Environmental Protection. Each enables and protects quality of life for all county residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Maria Brancon.
Thank you. Hi there. Thank you, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and the members of the County Council for allowing me to address you today. I'm Maria Briançon, President of Poolesville Seniors, the only nonprofit organization of its type within 15 miles of Poolesville, with a program creating opportunities for adults 50 plus to stay active and engaged. County Executive recommended us for a Legacy Renewal Award in the FY27 proposed budget. We're seeking the County Council's approval for those funds. From FY16, for 8 years, we got a community grant, approximating 25% of our total budget. OGM rejected our application for the FY25-27 cycle. The county acknowledged the process was flawed. By not taking the unique character of our area into account, this decision could have unjustly punished our seniors. Thankfully, the county executive recommended us for a legacy grant for some funds, and the council approved it for 2 years. County funds are vital to our success. We operate on a shoestring, mostly self-raised budget with 1.5 staff along with a 13-person volunteer board, others who contributed over 6,000 volunteers hours last year to produce a growing program of 90 free activities monthly, up from 70 last year to over 350 to 400 individual attendees. Thanks for noticing our achievements, along with our well-received pickleball program. In December, Montgomery Magazine readers voted Poolesville Seniors as Best Senior Programming and Best Senior Center. How about that? Best Senior Center. There are no brick and mortar community or senior centers within 15 miles of Poolesville. We're spending $15,000 annually on rental fees for heavily coveted limited space in churches and schools to sometimes house over 40 attendees per class weekly. County doesn't provide alternative programming for our area or create, promote, and run all our programming. Given distances, lack of reliable public transportation, we're not an alternative option. We're the only option for our patrons. Senior community is growing. Residents reach out to us not just for their rec needs, but vital information on in-home care. Through our 1,000 plus weekly blog subscribers and county partnered presentations, we're educating our community about your wonderful senior in-home care services that we can't provide. Our patrons credit us for getting better health reports, staying in their homes longer, and in some cases permanently. Our program to thwart aging and isolation is working. We have 10 plus legacy years as an outstanding senior provider. Our town, our generous supporters believe and invest in us. They count on us to deliver a quality program. Please continue and invest in us too. Thank you.
Thank you. I cannot wait to be a senior and be with you. I had to say that. Came from the heart. Angie McCarthy.
Tough act to follow. Good afternoon, Montgomery County Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to provide testimony on the FY27 operating budget. My name is Angie McCarthy, and I am the Maryland Conservation Advocate for Nature Forward. Nature Forward is the oldest independent environmental organization protecting nature in the DC region. We are supportive of the county executive's recommendations, though advocate for full funding for DEP and parks. We are particularly happy with the watershed restoration grants, but continue to support removing the Tier 7 cap on the water quality protection charge. We do, however, have concerns regarding the county executive's $43 million long-haul contract as a replacement for the Dickerson incinerator. I'd like to thank Friends of Sligo Creek for their thorough analysis of the environmental justice and community justice impacts comparing long-hauling Montgomery County's 600 tons of waste to Virginia versus using our, candidly, outdated incinerator. Simply put, it is an environmental justice issue for Montgomery County to ship its waste to landfills in Virginia. First, the Dickerson incinerator is efficiently managing our waste and is far below the EPA's toxic air pollution standards. Long-hauling our trash to a landfill will have significantly more greenhouse gas impacts. Second, we cannot say that we are a county that cares about environmental justice if we are taking trash from a median and high-income white community and shipping it to a community that is mostly Black and low-income. While it may be a tough budget year, it is our mess to clean up and starts with RFPs for upgrading the incinerator to the highest possible standard, ensuring that the ash is disposed of in a way that does not leach hazardous materials into not only our soil and water, but also the soil and water of our less politically advantaged neighbors. We can talk about reducing our waste as a longer-term solution, but for now, we have to deal with the trash that is in front of us. Finally, as often said by council members, that budgets are moral documents and demonstrate where a community's priorities lie. And within this document, environmental justice is mentioned once under the Office of Agriculture's programming, though I know that there are many climate justice programs that are not named. As you consider the many different priorities that lay before you, including the incinerator, I urge you all to keep in mind that climate change impacts the most disadvantaged communities first and hardest, but impacts us all. It is up to counties like ours with power, money, and privilege to make decisions that do not exacerbate harm. On behalf of Nature Forward and our 30,000 members and supporters, we recommend the County Council support and consider elevating environmental justice in the FY27 budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fraser Blaylock.
Yes. First of all, what she said Good afternoon, Madam Council President and council members. My name is Fraser Blaylock. Thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of ReWorld. We are the operator of our county's resource recovery facility and transfer station. And before I make my comments, I'd just like to acknowledge some of our my colleagues that are here today. Just give a wave. Thank you. This group represents a few of the 125 ReWorld employees that work in the county, 70 of which work at the resource recovery facility in Dickerson. I am proud to live in a county that is a model for the rest of the state and, for that matter, for the country in how we sustainably manage the waste we create. I'm sure everyone has been to the busy transfer station at Shady Grove where residents can drive up with old TVs, paint cans, whatever, and we will get it to the right place to be recycled or reused or disposed of appropriately. It's a unique and I think actually quite a beloved resource in the county. People love that place. And most of you have been out to tour the resource recovery facility. As a reminder, the trash from around the county is brought to the transfer station of Shady Grove, loaded into rail cars, and then railed out to Dickerson by our friends at CSX, who you'll hear from later. And it's converted to enough renewable electricity to power about 28,000 homes. ReWorld understands that the council has been asked to consider alternatives to the current system in this 27 budget. We're grateful that you're going to take the time to consider what is the best for the county going forward outside of this budget process. Montgomery County has a valuable infrastructure asset in Dickerson. It has allowed us, you all, to offer residents and businesses stable waste disposal service and predictable pricing for 30 years. It has also allowed us to avoid long hauling our waste to landfills in someone else's community. We understand that further financial investment in the resource recovery facility requires serious evaluation, I'm a taxpayer, by the council, and glad it will receive input from stakeholders throughout the county. We stand ready to work with our colleagues at the DEP and with you all to chart a future of sustainable waste disposal and renewable electricity generation for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Nick Logan.
Hello, my name is Nick Logan, and I'm here to advocate for the DD supplement as a person with a disability. I used to work at the National Human Genome Research Institute at NIH. In 2025, I was part of the first round of federal reduction in force dismissals. I loved that job and I held it for 13 years. I consistently received top performance ratings, and my previous supervisor called me a great asset and an unsung hero. I started there as a project search intern through Seek support in this program. I began by scanning files in 2 different institutes. Within the length of the 30-week program, my potential was recognized and I was hired. Over time, I worked my way up to serving as alternate executive secretary to the NHGRI director. Seek did not just help me get the job, they helped me keep it and grow in it. They supported me in learning workplace culture, understanding expectations, and navigating communication with supervisors when needed. I also have friends who rely on other Seek services, including supported living, where staff help people with everyday living tasks. These services matter because they help people do more than just get by. They help people live, work, and thrive, which is Seek's slogan. Right now, Seek is helping me with my job search. Without these supports, I would not be able to build the life I have. I live here in Rockville with my girlfriend and dog, and I have independence in my daily life. Without support, I could easily be back home with my parents, unemployed, and with far fewer opportunities. The state has once again reduced funding for the organization that supports me, and so many others. I ask the county to do what it can to protect and support this funding. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Next, we have Elizabeth Tuin.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the Council. I'm Elizabeth Tuin, Co-Executive Director of the Montgomery County Food Council. We are grateful for the county's support of the Food Council as a place to bring community together to help solve big food system issues. And here's what we're hearing from our food assistance partners right now. More people are showing up to food distributions. More people are confused and frightened about their SNAP benefits. And they're not just in need of groceries. They're also wondering how to pay rent, how to afford medical bills, and also to keep working when childcare is out of reach. Some of our neighbors are weighing whether it's even safe to leave the house to get the help they need. Food assistance organizations are being squeezed from every direction. Demand is up, as is food and supply costs. Federal support for SNAP outreach is being cut. There's pressure to change service methods to address the new political climate, and they are trying to keep up with data collection, reporting requirements, investments in storage and facilities to help do this work safely, all of which costs money and staff time. Over the past year, I have sat through a lot of discussions where very smart people try to figure out how to do this work more efficiently and effectively. Inevitably, the conversation turns to a need for greater coordination. And yes, in an ideal world, a family could make a single call or walk into a single office and be connected to a full menu of services without having to fall through the cracks. We would have a better understanding of the depth of need, and we could reduce duplication of services. That's the goal. But here's the reality. We have a large and diverse network of organizations of varying sizes and capacity, serving a wide range of needs. It takes real time and experience to understand what services exist and who qualifies. And we cannot ask these organizations to build a more sophisticated and connected system while the resources that would allow them to do all of this work remain stagnant. We appreciate the proposed investment in the county's food assistance programs and in initiatives like Community Connect, but we all need to understand what coordination actually means from the perspective of the nonprofits trying to do this work. It is not a cost-free solution. It means hiring and retaining staff, deploying technology systems to share information and track outcomes, all while still protecting client data. It means time and trust building that allows a network of very different organizations to actually work together. This kind of connected network is a serious investment of time and money, and our food assistance providers need help to build it. So here's what we are asking for. First, strong, flexible funding for the food assistance providers. Flat funding is a cut when rising costs mean less food and increased demand. And second, we need increased sustained investment in the coordination work. Not just the idea of coordination, but the systems and the people that make it real. We need county agencies and community partners working together to address these root causes so that people stop coming back again and again for these services. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lisa Carrier-Baker.
Hello, my name is Lisa Carrier-Baker. I'm the Academy Director at Adventure Theater MTC in Wintergreen Plaza here in Rockville, and I'm here to ask for $75,000 to help us stay in our studios. Adventure Theater MTC will celebrate its 75th anniversary next year. We're the longest operating theater in Montgomery County, both for performances and education for children. We've seen so many of our students go on to careers on Broadway, television and film, and our local Helen Hayes Award winners. But we as lifelong educators have seen a large shift in students since 2020. Due to the pandemic, children here and around the world were faced with months of isolation and now struggle with social development issues, ADD, ADHD, and anxiety at a much greater rate. Participation in theater helps them communicate, trust their instincts, boost their confidence, and helps make those invaluable social connections. We have a fantastic relationship with the Montgomery County Public Schools and have been asked to provide programming each year to their after-school drama programs due to popular demand. We sell out of our classes and serve over 600 kids every summer in our summer camps. We sold out of our student production that will have 4 performances this spring in 45 minutes. We also provide a great source of support and employ teaching artists, and are proud to say that several of these teaching artists are alumni of our program. Our summer camps alone employ 35 staff members, a feat almost unheard of today in today's economy. We're clearly valuable to the Rockville community and county, culturally and financially, and yet, due to the high cost of rent in our area and the current economic climate, we are struggling and require assistance from the county. Despite these struggles, Adventure Theater and the art sector at large are an economic driving force in Montgomery County. In a financial impact report created by Theater Washington, the data shows suburban Maryland theaters inject nearly $32 million into the local economy. Several of our nonprofit partners have budgets under $100,000, but those groups have a whopping 350% return on investment for every dollar received from government sources. If we left Rockville, our absence would drain the city's economy of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, which is a level of magnitude much higher than the amount we are requesting. The senior staff at Adventure Theater has been meeting with county and city leaders for the past 18 months and have been told time and time again that elected officials can't help us. But we believe we can work together to keep making a difference in our community. Please help Adventure Theater MTC. We need the arts in our county and in our children's lives now more than ever. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you for coming, and thanks to each one of you. I'm going to call on the next panel. Novlet Williamson, Daniela Ochoa, Donna Coley, Stephen Lapham, Alucina Odebayo, Sarah Paquisma, and Russell Brazil. And we're going to start with Ms. Williamson. Yeah, who's that, you? Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam President and members of the County Council. My name is Novlet Williamson. I am here to ask the county to invest in early mental health intervention, whole person screening, and coordinated community referrals so residents do not have to reach crises before receiving help. And early screening should lead to action. Life happens to all of us, but how people respond to life's challenges depends heavily on their support system. And for many of us, that support system is not always family or friends. It is often our healthcare providers. I know this firsthand. During a period of medical and financial hardship away from all family, I was managing chronic pain, disability, and mounting stress. On the outside, I appeared composed, but the deeper challenges I was facing were never connected to the support that I really needed. When healthcare, housing, and support systems do not communicate, people are left to manage multiple crises alone, and that delay causes real harm. Strengthening early intervention improves outcomes and ensures that residents do not suffer in silence before receiving help. I respectfully request the county increase funding in the fiscal year 27 budget for these areas. I am grateful that I eventually found help in the community, but that connection to that help did not come through my healthcare providers, and it could have. That healthcare gap matters. When whole person screening leads to action, including referrals to housing support, financial assistance, mental health services, community-based resources, we all benefit. We need better implementation and coordination and accessibility of existing systems. Regardless of how the instability occurs, people need care, and they need it early on, because no one should have to fall apart to receive the care that they really need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Daniela Ochoa.
Okay.
Turn it on, please.
I
Respira. Breathe.
I am improvising. I didn't present the testimony, but I'm speaking from my mind and heart.
I love it that way.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Please do not put lipstick on a pig by keeping the incinerator open. Okay? Here is why. The best examples I heard in the last 3 days was the example about the coffee grains coming through when you already have blended them. And that's the ashes. Don't pretend that we care about communities of color or low income by not wanting to close the incinerator. Our ashes are significantly more toxic, and we are already being racist by sending those ashes where we are. Now, most of the people in this county don't know that we're doing that, but we are. The most innovative thing we could do is get every resident deal with their own trash. We're not there. Civilization is not there, and we're not going to do that. But the most responsible thing will be to close the incinerator. And I'm going to make my points. There's 54 incinerators that have already closed in the United States in the last 5 years. Ours is a ticking bomb, and it's hurting everyone. It's just we're breathing it. We cannot see it. Second point I want to make. I hear people in this county lovely, dearly caring about Excel Beyond the Bell in the school districts. Well, guess what? The funding for the school districts could come from all the food waste we're already generating. I crunched the numbers. Our county is wasting more than $15 million in the FCPS budget by all the food that we're providing to the kids, mostly through the free lunches, and wasting. There you have $15 million that could be utilized. And all of those nutrients that are coming from places that we import that food from, like Mexico and other places abroad, is being incinerated. What is happening to that is that all of those nutrients are being annihilated for all generations to come. So I want you to think about this. Every time you eat a fresh fruit or vegetable, especially an avocado, because I come from the avocado land, and you're throwing that in your trash, because that's going to be gone forever. Nutrients, potassium, magnesium. If we put it in the compost, it could be so much better. I'm going to just try to solidify there. There is also very important blind spots in this county that are not being utilized to save money. My last minute. I noticed that Parks and Recreation is paying for mulch when we have tons of mulch that could also be producing with the food waste. We also have MCPS paying for mulch and compost. So we're working the best of possibilities in silos. It's time to get our act together. I'm going to leave you with this. There was a person called Victor Glover. He is an astronaut, and he said, hey, guys, we're in spaceships, but we are all in a spaceship. The spaceship is called Earth. That moved me deeply. I hope it moved you as well, because this room of the spaceships is called Montgomery County.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Donna Coley.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, and the rest of the distinguished members of the County Council. My name is Donna Coley. I'm a Montgomery County resident. I'm here today to express concern about the proposal in the county exec's budget to reallocate resources away from the African American Health Program, AAHP, and to also urge the council to take intentional steps that protect AAHP to ensure its long-term sustainability. Montgomery County is consistently ranked among the healthiest counties in Maryland and the nation, and that is something to be proud of. Yet that success is not experienced equally. According to the 2025 Annual County Health Rankings, racial disparities in health outcomes persist, especially for African Americans. Black residents experience worse outcomes across major chronic disease, including heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. These disparities are not just about access. They're about trust, which is what I really want to focus on today. For many African American residents, historical inequities, lived experiences have created understandable mistrust in the healthcare system. And without trust, even the best services will go unused. Trust is the cornerstone of what makes AAHP successful, and it must not be lost in any of this. They use a proven, evidence-based, and community-engaged approach that builds trust, improves engagement, and delivers better outcomes. They don't just provide services, they build relationships and meet people where they are. A good example, this week is National Public Health Week. AHP has partnered with Black churches across the county to host free health and wellness fairs, bringing screenings, education, and resources directly into trusted community spaces. At every community event I've ever attended over the last few years, I can count on seeing the red table there. AAHP is there, and I've even benefited from those screenings. That's what an effective public health model looks like. Whether or not alignment within DHHS is the goal, any shift must be done strategically and with transparency. The AAHP Executive Committee and all other key stakeholders must be engaged to provide input to ensure that any proposed transition does not undermine the program's effectiveness or weakens its autonomy and community connection. It takes years to build trust and only moments to lose it. Health equity does not happen by accident. It requires intentional investment. AAHP is that investment. Thank you very much.
so much. For some reason, it's not making a sound, so please check on that, guys. Stephen Lappin.
Hello. Yes. Thank you all for devoting these many hours to listening carefully to your constituents' concerns about the FY 2027 budget for Montgomery County, Maryland. My name is Stephen Sellers Lapham. As you have heard at many public hearings in recent years, many residents are hopeful that our county tax money will no longer be sent to a foreign government as a free handout, that is, for no goods or services at all that we would normally expect to get in return for our money. If the county's funding for the Maryland Israel Development Center has ended, then that's a good thing. Legally, for example, the federal Leahy law, economically, and ethically. But it's not clear to me today what has happened to the old MIDC line item. I did send a letter with this query to each of you. Maybe one of you can inform me and the public now or later as to whether MIDC funding has been shifted to some category in the budget or has been truly eliminated. I understand that there's enormous pressure to support the military-industrial complex in all its forms. Montgomery County is home to captains of the industry, for example, Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, and we enjoy the tax revenue and the music concert halls to which they contribute. But do they really contribute? And do we really benefit? I mean, are we seeing a wee bit of our tax money bounce back to us through these corporations, which also profit by selling their bombs and systems to other nations who bomb school buses and schools? As a matter of fact, we're watching today as the United States bombs schools and bridges and municipal facilities in Iran and, through our proxy, Israel, bomb Lebanon. The killing continues in Gaza and the West Bank, with weapons provided by the United States. You, our county councilors, are responsible for a budget that is, as you say, a moral document. Let's at least do our part not to contribute to the violence with our public county funds, but rather contribute to answering the needs as spoken by the people here, more than 40 testimonials today. Let's see, I got 52 seconds. So Chalmers Johnson wrote in his 2000 book, the classic Blowback, The Costs and Consequences of American Empire. On page 7, he writes, I believe the profligate waste of our resources on irrelevant weapon systems and the Asian economic meltdown of 1997, as well as the continuous trail of military accidents and terrorist attacks on American installations and embassies are all portents of the 21st century crisis in America's informal empire, an empire based on the projection of military power to every corner of the world and on the use of American capital and markets to force global economic integration on our terms at whatever cost to others. So we're living in that future now, and it's time for us to turn a different page. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Alusina Adebayo.
Good afternoon, Council President and members of the Council. My name is Olu Adebayo, and I serve as the Executive Director at Rainbow Place Shelter here in Montgomery County. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here to respectfully urge the Council to increase investment in homeless services in the FY27 operating budget, and specifically to support $1.5 million operating funding for a new young adult shelter serving individuals ages 18 to 24. We are not asking the county to act alone. This project is being developed in partnership with community stakeholders, and we are actively pursuing a diversified funding strategy. However, county operating support is essential to ensure this program can launch and be sustained at a level of quality and accountability that our community expects. Montgomery County has long been a leader in addressing homelessness with compassion and innovation. This is an opportunity to continue that leadership by investing in a solution that is forward-looking, evidence-informed, and responsive to a critical gap in our system. Since 1982, Rainbow Place Shelter has been a seasonal overnight shelter in Rockville, serving adult women of all ages who are experiencing homelessness. Historically, the shelter has been open each year from November 1st to April 1st, keeping women safe in Montgomery County during the coldest months of the year. In addition to treating our guests with kindness and compassion, we actively help them transition out of homelessness into more stable housing. Through our work at Rainbow Place, we have seen firsthand the growing number of young adults experiencing housing instability, many of whom fall between systems designed for youth and those designed for older adults. These young people are often navigating trauma, disrupted education, limited work experience, and minimal support networks. Without intervention at this stage, they are at significant risk of entering long-term and chronic homelessness. The proposed young adult shelter is designed to address this gap directly. It will provide structured, supervised housing combined with case management, behavioral health referrals, workforce development, and life skills training. This is not simply a place to stay, as a pathway to stability and independence. This investment is both compassionate and physically responsible. When we fail to intervene early, young adults are more likely to cycle through emergency rooms, crisis services, and the justice system, placing a greater long-term strain on county resources. By contrast, a targeted investment in stabilization reduces downstream costs and improves long-term outcomes. At Rainbow Place, we have seen what is possible when individuals are given the right support at the right time, but we have also seen the consequences when resources are not available early enough. The young adult shelter represents an opportunity to shift from crisis response to prevention, to meet people before their situation escalates. I respectfully ask for your support of $1.5 million in operating funds for the young adult shelter and for continued investment in the broader homeless service systems. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your commitment to the residents of Montgomery County.
Thank you. Next, Sarah Paxima.
Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Paxima. As a resident from a small town, I wear several different hats. I am one of Poolesville's town commissioners, a member of the Fair Access Committee, and a founding officer of a local nonprofit called Poolesville Pride, part of the MoCo Pride family. I'm also here with our president, Sam Cooper. But I'm also a mom of 5 children. 4 of my children have already graduated from Poolesville High School, and my youngest is in 7th grade at John Poole Middle School. I'm here to ask you all to invest in the current and future youth of Poolesville and surrounding areas. This includes funding for a county community center and health clinic in Poolesville, public transportation improvements like the Ride-On Bus Reverse Flex proposal, and what I will be focusing on today, funding for Poolesville Pride, through the proposed amendment to fund the MoCo Pride family and Pride Center at a minimum of $1 million for the FY27 budget. Our zip code has consistently ranked among the lowest for health outcomes in our county, including behavioral and mental health. In addition to the continued funding for WMCO and the health and dental vans, I'm here to raise awareness of the needs of our youth who can't drive, don't have access to meaningful public transportation, and who didn't necessarily choose to live in a remote part of the county. Most other youth in the county have access to county-funded after-school and summer programs, but not in Poolesville. Our local municipality and parent volunteers have done an admirable job of providing alternative after-school and summer sports, but there are plenty of youth who are not interested in athletics, but who are interested in art, music, theater, or just a place to hang out and play games and be with other youth. This often includes our queer youth, like my kids. Poolesville Pride, a nonprofit funded in large part by MoCo Pride Center, helps provide a space for some of our most vulnerable youth to gather on a regular basis to socialize and create art. Poolesville Pride also sponsors an annual Poolesville Pride Fest. Last year, there were over 1,500 local residents who came out to celebrate and support our rural queer community. The planning for all of our events also provide mentorship and leadership opportunities for local students. In 2023, the county's LGBTQ survey only included 1 documented respondent from our zip code. But we know that there are hundreds of queer residents, adult and youth, who live in our rural zip code. Poolesville Pride is helping these residents organize themselves so that they can advocate and speak up for their own needs in the future. For the sake of our youth, especially our queer youth, please continue to fund the Poolesville Community Center, Reverse Flex public transportation, and the amendment to increase funding for MoCo Pride Family, including Poolesville Pride, for a minimum of $1 million in the FY27 budget. Thank you all.
Thank you. Russell Brazil.
Good afternoon, Madam President and council members. My name is Russell Brazil, and I am here on behalf of the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors to express our serious concerns about the proposed operating budget and property tax increase. GCAR would like to spend our time reinforcing the deeply troubling economic situation our county faces and reinforce some harrowing facts and statistics from fiscal year 27's proposed operating budget. Many of these statistics are from the council's incredible central staff. Their work shows how dire the situation has become. We hope for those out there watching that every county resident takes a few minutes to review these summary materials for themselves. The most eye-popping stats from this budget are the structural deficit numbers. The county executive's budget uses over $190 million in reserve funds for ongoing expenses. Despite a 6.3% property tax increase, a 3.125% income tax increase, half a dozen rate and fee increases, and the rating of our reserve dollars, the county would still be left with a structural deficit next year of over $250 million. The council is not being asked to cut services staff or compensation, though it is an anemic 2.3% growth rate, due in part to the policies the council continues to pass that hurt our economic development. Our county revenues are growing. Much of this growth is inflated by the huge increase in home assessments. From fiscal year 22 through 26, residential property assessments increased in the range of 6.4 to 9.9% annually. The average annual increase for all property assessments increased far in excess of the inflation rate of 3.8%. Regardless of tax rate increases, regardless of tax increases, these taxes are not progressive. Despite the county executive's plan to include tax credits to offset tax hikes, the increase is being worn squarely on the shoulders of the middle class and moderate income families. Households are forgoing childcare, pinching pennies on groceries and gas, and cutting daily needs to make their personal budgets work. How does the county executive and his administration answer this difficult moment? With quote-unquote efficiencies that amount to $19 million, a 0.2% efficiency plan, all while he adds 305 more positions to the budget. How can you look a county resident in the eye and tell them you plan on increasing their household's financial burden while weakening the county's financial standing and making our county's future more dire? These are the moments when we need leadership. I understand the difficult calls that this council needs to make. Please make the right calls, the tough decisions, and pull us back from the fiscal cliff that Montgomery County is currently facing. Thank you.
Thank you to each one of you for coming today. I'm going to call on the next panel. I have Lee Blinder, Robert Elstone, Michelle Joseph, Deborah Monk, Philip Alexander Downey, James Montgomery, Sean Heineman. And we're going to start with Lee. Uh-oh, you forgot your notes. Oh. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, and all of the esteemed council members. I am the Executive Director of Trans Maryland. My name is Lee Blinder, use they, them pronouns, and I'm also a proud member of the Montgomery County Pride family, and I'm also the chair of the Maryland Commission on LGBTQI+ Affairs, although I'm not here in that capacity. I grew up here in the county. I went to school here. I became the advocate that I am today here. And I was very proud to spend Trans Day of Visibility with my Pride family on March 31st. I'm so grateful to be here in Montgomery County, where promises to our community are put into concrete actions and are backed up by real dollars that are invested into this community in crisis. It means the world to us. We're doing something special together in partnership with the Montgomery County Council and leadership. As a result, we're collectively working to let people know that the Montgomery County Council is committed to being a leader in Maryland by continuing to invest in the trans and LGBTQI+ community more broadly. The county initially allocated $500,000 for the Pride family and then added $500,000 in supplemental funding, which enabled us to support this incredibly vulnerable community. The attacks on our community, particularly focused on the trans community from this federal regime, are relentless, with several executive orders attempting to remove us from public life and a federal regime who have made their animus against this community clear. A joint terrorism task force has been created that has labeled my life and existence as a trans person domestic terrorism. We need our allies to understand the impact of this crisis and to commit to ensuring that we have significant and tangible financial resources dedicated to addressing this crisis. The peril to our inalienable rights to experience joy and to thrive is tangible. Your budgetary support of the Montgomery County Pride family directly addresses these crises. We are receiving constant inquiries for support from trans and queer individuals, their families, and their providers due to the current situation for this community in Maryland. As trans people, we live at the intersections of identity: Black trans people, brown trans people, Indigenous trans people, disabled trans people, and trans immigrants. Every vulnerable community is also represented within the transgender community, but not every service organization is prepared to welcome the LGBTQI+ community in an affirming manner, including, unfortunately, in Montgomery County. That disparity necessitates the work of Trans Maryland and the Montgomery County Pride family. Here at home, our county leadership knows we cannot flinch.
Thank you.
Please fund the council, please council fund this work at a minimum of $1 million.
Thank you. Thank you. Robert Elston.
Hello, everybody. My name is Robert Elston. I'm a grant writer for the Ethiopian Community Development Council, ECDC. We're a refugee resettlement agency with offices in Silver Spring. I rise to speak on behalf of our community development block grant titled Expanding Earning Power for Refugees. I'd first like to thank the Department of Housing and Community Affairs and the Community Development Advisory Committee for recommending ECDC's proposal to the County Council. Our grant focuses on helping vulnerable families in the county, not just refugees, to improve their professional qualifications and earning power by matching them with training schools offering professional certifications such as personal care provider, pharmacy tech, commercial drivers, nursing assistants. But the situation is urgent. ECDC in the past 5 years has resettled more than 2,000 legal refugees into the state of Maryland, including 594 into Montgomery County. Many of these families, as well as a wider population of low-income people, have seen their SNAP food assistance terminated as the federal government has moved to tighten eligibility in order to reduce the funding. In October, many more will lose access to Medicaid, as you know, and subsidized ACA premiums. This means survival and gig jobs that are popular with newcomers and underserved populations will no longer be sufficient. We anticipated this at ECDC, and we've been working to tackle the problem. Since we submitted this proposal last fall, ECDC has spent more than $30,000 to help 43 people obtain professional certifications that we hope will open doors for them to get higher paying jobs with health benefits. 3/4 of the funds that we have requested will be spent directly on behalf of Montgomery County residents to the professional training schools. And we will carve out a special focus on women after our staff has noticed an increase in females coming into our office asking for help to enter the workforce. We'll host a professional opportunities fair open to everyone that brings those seeking certifications together with those providing them. And we've built partnerships in the community with more than a dozen providers, including culinary schools, community colleges, driving schools, and others offering professional certifications. We also have experienced, language-capable employment specialists ready to play the role of matchmaker between those seeking and those offering. And the result will be a more vibrant, qualified workforce in Montgomery County, made up of talented people from underserved communities at a time when the need is great and the stakes are high. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Michelle Joseph.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and members of the County Council. My name is Michelle Joseph, CEO of the Student Global Ambassador Program, a leadership program for underserved teens. I'm also a member and board member and co-chair of the nonprofit Montgomery Advocacy Committee. I want to tell you something about some of our teenagers that you should know. They are part of a program we call Sustainability Fellows. These are youth leaders who design, execute, and lead real sustainability projects right here in Montgomery County. The current cohort is building a clothing recycling initiative entitled EcoStyle. Their goal? To make sustainable fashion accessible to every student in the county. They pitched it themselves, they voted it together, and now they're executing it right now. In fact, 50% of our fellows live in District 3, Councilmember Glass, and 33 are from Clarksville in District 2, one of the fastest growing communities in the county, as you well know, Councilmember Balcom. And the remaining students are from Bethesda, District 1, home of Bethesda Green, Councilmember Friedson. These are your constituents who are investing in the future of this county. And our organization is genuinely worried about its ability to keep doing its work. In 2025, State of Nonprofits report tells us why. Wages in our sector are rising 6 to 10% annually. Insurance costs have increased 15 to 40% over 3 years. Technology requirements are adding costs organizations were never budgeted for. The proposed 2.5 inflationary adjustment is a meaningful gesture, and we appreciate that. But we're concerned it is not enough to keep pace with what organizations are experiencing on the ground. The federal impact supplement adds another layer of concern. 74% of nonprofits are seeing declining individual donations. Nearly 2/3 are losing corporate and foundation support, and 1/3 are seeing rising demand for services driven by the federal workforce reductions. At SGAP Leaders, these pressures affect whether our work continues. So I come before you with 3 requests. First, consider strengthening the inflationary adjustment for nonprofit contracts to 8%. Second, protect and fully support the nonprofit federal resiliency grants that are already proposed. And third, follow the recommendations of the advisory work groups on grants, ensuring adequate funding for the community grants non-departmental account for fiscal year 27, and deciding on a clear mechanism to determine priority funding areas for fiscal 28. Thank you.
Right on target. Very nice. Thank you. Deborah Monk.
Good afternoon, Council President and Council members. I'm grateful for the opportunity to testify before you today. I'm Deborah Monk, and I want to highlight a crucial program that serves our neighbors by helping them remain housed by providing emergency financial assistance when they face eviction due to past due rent. I serve as board chair of Interfaith Works, which offers an essential prevention program called Connections. Now, I grew up with the adage that a stitch in time saves 9. And I believe that Connections is a stitch that can prevent the slide into homelessness. We know from experience that once a person or family loses their housing, it costs a lot more to rehouse them than to keep them in their current home. And that is the goal of Connections. Last year, the program served 495 households by providing emergency financial help, including support for people who have fallen behind in their rent. Connections is a low-barrier early response prevention program. Unlike other similar programs in Montgomery County, Connections does not require that a person seeking aid be in significant arrears and facing an eviction notice or legal action. The program provides financial assistance before individuals and families are tied up in the legal system. and in crisis. The People Connections has helped include Mary, a hardworking single mother. She found herself near crisis when her daughter began struggling with a serious mental illness. Mary needed to give her child extensive support, but because of her job, she could not take paid leave. So she was forced to make the difficult decision to take leave of absence to prioritize her daughter's recovery. And that employment gap left her short on rent, putting her at risk for eviction. Through the IW Connections program, Mary received $400 in bridge funding that was needed to be able to stay in her home, providing stability for her and her daughter, who was in 12 weeks of outpatient treatment. Now that her daughter has stabilized, Mary's returning to work, and her financial recovery was made possible by the timely support that kept her family housed during their time of need. Supporting Connections through the FY27 budget would help ensure early effective intervention that keeps families housed and avoids the public expense of homelessness. The program now operates on limited donations and grants. That means funds routinely run out at the opening days of each month. The need far outstrips the resources. A $449,000 investment in FY27 would ensure that Interfaith Works Connections could serve 570 more families by adding 2 resource counselors and dedicating $256,000 to emergency rental and utility financial assistance. Thank you for considering providing budget support for the Connections program.
Thank you. Philip Alexander Downey.
Good afternoon, Council President and Council members. I'm in community. My name is Philip Alexander Downey, he, him pronouns, and I am a lifelongish resident of Montgomery County and the Chief Executive Officer of the Montgomery County Pride family. I am here today in support of the county's budget with an amendment to fund the Montgomery County Pride family at a minimum of $1 million in the FY27 budget. The Pride Center is a place where people come seeking support, whether they are unhoused, struggling to access food, navigating mental health or substance use challenges, or simply trying to find stability or affirmation. Our 7-day-a-week drop-in center provides a moment folks can breathe. It is a place where both young people and elders can exist fully as themselves without fear, where someone navigating isolation finds connection, and where folks in need of resources find not just answers, but care, services, and dignity. We are also the home of a broader ecosystem of organizations working together to serve our county through the Montgomery County Pride family. This funding supports not just one center, but a consortium of 7 organizations and growing, providing advocacy, programming, education, cultural experiences, and direct services across the county. As we know, daily protections and initiatives surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion are being eroded. Protections and care for trans and gender expansive folks are being dismantled. Every day, navigating health systems are increasingly more difficult. We work to bridge the gap between some of our most vulnerable community members and local care and wellness resources, but we cannot do that without all of you. This county council has made initial investments, and we have honored those investments by building something that is working, a family of organizations and provision of services and programs that are serving our most vulnerable residents that people are relying on every single day, and they are returning to them. The current proposed funding is approximately half of what is needed to sustain this work. Half funding does not sustain full services or meet the level of need we are seeing, and it puts this essential work at risk, not just for one center, but for the network of organizations and services that rely on this infrastructure. We are asking to sustain what is already working, to keep the doors open every day, keep services consistent, and to continue showing up for our neighbors and community members who rely on us. Montgomery County has the opportunity to lead, not just in words, but in action, to make clear that some of our most vulnerable and underserved residents are not an afterthought, and that their well-being, safety, and access to care are worth sustained investment. I'm asking you to fund the Montgomery County Pride family at a minimum of $1 million in the FY27 base budget, because this work is essential and people depend on it. And we have the responsibility to meet this moment with care and courage. Thank you for your time, for your leadership, and I look forward to the work we continue to do together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have James Montgomery.
Council President Fanny Gonzalez, members of the council, thank you. My name is James Montgomery. I have been doing volunteer work for libraries for 10 years, most recently on the library board. I have, however, resigned because I disagree with County Executive Elrich's budget recommendations calling for further cuts to the library staff. Mr. Elrich's earlier fiscal year 23 staff cut from 403 to 385 has visibly hindered MCPL's efforts to restore our libraries to their pre-pandemic role in our county's cultural, intellectual, and educational life. We have seen this with the branches now closed on Sunday, and with the sad spectacle of some branches turning away little children coming for a story time. The county executive's recommendations to cut the staff by another 8 positions would worsen these situations. As Mr. Elrich himself pointed out on March 13, kindergarten readiness remains a major problem. It makes no sense to further hinder this county's biggest kindergarten readiness engine, our libraries. As county statistics show, the number of residents using their library cards at least once in a year is still but 2/3 of what it was before the pandemic, and that percentage has not changed over the last 2 fiscal years. We see similar lower percentages for children participating in kindergarten readiness programs. Our library leadership is making a serious effort to reach out to our increasingly diverse community and to let everyone know that our libraries exist and what these libraries can do for their children. But as the statistics show, as the disconsolate little children wheeled away in their strollers show, the libraries need more people to tell their story, to let everyone know about the delight and the hope within their walls. So when you meet with the library leadership on the 13th, please ask them what they would do were they given back the 8 positions Mr. Elrich seeks to cut. Ask them what they need to restore Sunday hours. Ask them what they would need to respond were children to start showing up again at pre-pandemic levels. Montgomery County has long presented itself to the world as the center of vibrant and productive intellectual activity. But now one of our long-standing intellectual jewels is at risk, struggling to reestablish itself. Mr. Elrich's budget recommendations, however, would ask that it give up this fight, that it keep those doors shut on Sunday, that it continue to turn away those children. That's not right. We ask you to do the right thing and reject those cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Hayman.
Good afternoon, President Manny Gonzalez and council members. My name is Sean Heineman, and I work with the Language Access Program at IUTA, which operates the Community Legal Interpreter Bank, or CLIB, which is under contract with the county's Department of Health and Human Services. I'm here to thank you first for the county's longstanding support and to respectfully urge you to allocate an additional $20,000 to DHHS in the coming year's operating budget to sustain and expand critical language access for deaf and limited English proficient county residents. Since 2013, the county has invested in CLIB to ensure pro bono and public interest attorneys can serve residents who are deaf or speak languages other than English at no cost to the legal service provider or to the client. Your investment works. CLIB has provided interpreters for over 1,500 attorney-client meetings and translated over 500 legal documents for low-income county residents. The need is immense. About 154,000, or around 15% of county residents over the age of 5 are limited or non-English proficient, and thousands more are deaf and hard of hearing and may use a sign language. CLIB relies on a vetted network of 135 local professional interpreters working in 35 languages, including Spanish, Amharic, French, Arabic, Dari, Pashto, and American Sign Language. These interpreters are trained for out-of-court legal settings, so confidentiality, legal terminology, and attorney-client privilege, so that attorneys can do their jobs effectively and ethically. CLIB serves 30 civil legal service organizations across the county, including some whom you've already heard from in these with their testimony. IUTA handles the logistics, recruiting, scheduling, and quality control, and payment for interpreters so that attorneys can focus on representing their clients. Our partners consistently tell us that professional interpretation and translation are essential to accurate client statements, safer reporting, and fairer outcomes. We're proud of what we've managed to accomplish with your support, but rising demand and costs have outpaced the annual inflationary increase. So we are requesting an additional $20,000, which would allow us to do two things. First would be to keep pace with demand for scheduled legal interpretation and document translation, so services are not restricted when cases surge. And secondly, to add on-demand telephonic interpretation for urgent and short calls. This is a modest investment with outsized impact. It strengthens due process, improves public safety, and helps residents resolve crises before they escalate. I respectfully ask you to make language access a priority and allocate an additional $20,000 to DHHS for IUTA's Community Legal Interpreter Bank in FY27. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming today. Thank you for your testimony. I'm going to call on the next panel. Jeffrey Hines, Jen Schiller, Alan Hobbs, Nancy Ban, Elizabeth Martins, David Pendleton, Harold Maldonado. So we're going to start with Mr. Jeffrey. Is that you?
Yes.
You may begin. You may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, County Council members. My name is Jeffrey Haynes. I'm the chair of the Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission. On behalf of the Historic Preservation Commissioners, I'm here to express our strong support for the funding of one new cultural resource planner position for the Historic Preservation Division in the fiscal year 27 operating budget. Montgomery County's historic places, its buildings, its cultural landscapes, community landmarks are central to our shared identity. They tell the story of how our communities came to be. They anchor residents in place, foster pride, belonging, and continuity. The Historic Preservation Division plays a vital role in protecting these resources through research, documentation, technical assistance, and stewardship. The need for additional staff is both clear and urgent. The division has not added a new historian position since 2007, even as demand for the preservation services have grown significantly. Today, staff face a 3 to 4 year waiting list for historic designation requests, and more than 500 properties across 2 multi-property districts have approached the division for evaluation in the past year alone. Additionally, 128 individual sites in 13 districts remain on the locational atlas, creating a regulatory burden for property owners and prolonging a nearly 50-year effort to complete this work. Adding one cultural resource planner would meaningfully expand the division's capacity, cutting designation timelines, improving responsiveness to residents, and enabling broader outreach and preservation services county-wide. It would also allow staff to continue elevating stories that reflect the full diversity of Montgomery County, including recent designations such as Timberlawn and the Romeo and Elsie Horred House, which highlight the county's longstanding history of civic leadership and human rights advocacy. For these reasons, I respectfully ask that you prioritize the Historic Preservation Division in this year's budget. Your support will ensure that Montgomery County continues to protect the places and stories that define us, and the future generations inherit a landscape that reflects the richness of our shared history. Thank you all for your community service and for considering this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jen Schuyler.
Hi, I'm Jen Schiller, CEO of Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless. Some of you may have already read this story about David 7 years ago in the Washington Post. I brought a sign with me today. It's a recreation of a sign David used while living outside in Montgomery County, and it says just 2 words. It says blind and homeless. And that was his reality. standing on the side of the road in Bethesda, unable to see, asking strangers for help to survive. But through this partnership with Montgomery County and with the nonprofits, he got care, he had surgery, and he regained his sight. And then he moved into a permanent home. And once he was inside and he was safe and he was warm, he picked up a marker and crossed out another word on that sign. He crossed out homelessness. And 7 years later, he is still housed with Montgomery County Coalition for the Homeless in a permanent supportive housing program in Bethesda, where he is actively contributing to his community. And that is what your funding does. Your funding changes the trajectory of a human life. But without the resources to sustain that work, this stability disappears. Now more than ever, this support is essential to meeting the growing needs of our community. For 35 years, MCCH has partnered with the county to end homelessness. Today, we provide more than 1/3 of the county's permanent supportive housing, nearly half of the county's emergency shelter, and around 100 units of affordable housing. So first, we're glad to see the $1.9 million increase the county executive had in the homeless service budget, which will sustain existing emergency shelter and street outreach activities. As you know, costs, especially rent and utilities, continue to rise. As such, we respectfully request an 8% inflationary adjustment in order to maintain services that are currently in place. Without this, 5 households would lose their homes at MCCH. Those are veterans and families with children that will be being forced back into homelessness. But together, we can choose something different. We can ensure that people have stability and a path forward, and that a sign like this is never needed again. On behalf of everyone behind me in blue shirts, the safety net nonprofits, and thousands of Montgomery County residents we serve every day, thank you for standing up for the most vulnerable among us.
Thank you. Nope, no clapping, no clapping. You can go like this, no clapping. But thank you. Alan Hobbs.
Good afternoon, President Fani Gonzalez and fellow council members. My name is Alan Hobbs, and I am here to provide testimony regarding the urgent need for the construction of a new synthetic turf field at Poolesville High School. Currently, Poolesville has only 4 fields available on campus to accommodate 14 athletic teams during the fall and spring seasons. Due to limited facilities, 6 teams are forced to practice or compete off-site, which results in loss of valuable instructional practice time as consequence of travel, heightened safety concerns and supervision challenges. An athletic trainer cannot provide medical treatment at off-campus location, compromising student safety. Due to design updates during the recent modernization at PHS, 2 fields were removed. One was replaced by a larger parking lot, and the other was lost because of the extensive forest conservation plan. Consequently, multiple sport teams have relied on town parks for practice over the past 4 years, creating additional maintenance strain and expenses for town staff and the town's budget. Poolesville also partners with Whitman High School for spring preseason facility use. Several low-lying areas on the current grass field frequently experience pooling, especially along the visitor sidelines, resulting in last-minute cancellations or relocations at athletic events. Our teams often play home games at other schools' turf fields, which lessens school spirit and weakens community engagement. The existing irrigation system is over 40 years old, plagued by frequent leaks and requiring ongoing repairs. It can only be operated manually as the main valve and several heads leak if the system remains on, creating additional saturated spots leading to field damage. The antiquated stormwater management infrastructure dates back to the 1970s. Given its age and inefficiency, further investment of a new system costs approximately $1.4 million is impractical. The Ag Reserve covers 93,000 acres, while turf field represents 0.0000148% of that total footprint. The town would conserve approximately 1 million gallons of water annually for residents by installing a turf field. Poolesville leads Maryland in PFAS remediation, having installed the state's first 2 fully operational PFAS filters. Well 2, closest to the athletic field, had the second highest PFAS concentration in our water system, but its new filter system removes PFAS to an undetectable level. Town staff, including our town hydrologist, reviewed materials related to the turf field and met with county officials to ensure the risk to the town's water supply from PFAS. If MCPS proceeds with the turf field plan, the town's wellhead protection ordinance and undergo review with the approval of the Planning Commission still has to happen. A turf field would prevent costly and harmful application of paint, pesticides, fertilizers, and other chemicals, resulting in savings of approximately $100,000 per year.
Thank you very much. You can send the rest. Nancy Ban.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Nancy Ban, CEO of Mary Center, a community health center serving over 65,000 community members in Maryland and DC. I want to start by thanking the county executive and this council for your continued investment in Montgomery Cares, a life-saving program for many of our patients. We see its impact every day in our clinic. Mary Center has served Montgomery County since 2008, and programs like Montgomery Cares are essential to that work. I'd like to share the story of one patient that one of our physicians provided. She is 67 years old with advanced diabetes as well as liver and kidney disease. Because of financial and insurance barriers, accessing consistent care, especially specialty care, has been extremely difficult. Through Montgomery Cares, she is now seen regularly at our clinic and consistently receives insulin. In 2024, she had 6 hospitalizations and multiple emergency room visits due to complications from her diabetes. While her condition remains complex, something important has changed. She has not been hospitalized once in the past year. As one patient shared, before I didn't go to the doctor, it was too hard. Now they keep me and help me understand my medications. I feel better and I'm not scared anymore. That is what this program does. It creates stability. We also see it in the data. Among Montgomery Cares patients, our cervical cancer screening rate is nearly 78% among our patients compared to a national average of 55%. And breast cancer screening is over 70% compared to 54% nationally. That means patients are getting care earlier before it becomes more serious and more costly. Across our system, we consistently see that when patients are connected to a community health center, they have fewer emergency room visits, fewer hospitalizations, and lower overall costs, even when they have complex needs. That's because the model integrates primary care with behavioral health, care coordination, and social services, addressing the full picture of what drives health. Montgomery Cares is also a highly efficient model. We leverage county funding to unlock additional resources, including discounted medications, coordinated services, and community-based support. So my message is simple. Please preserve the county executive's proposed investment in the safety net. Montgomery County has built something special. This is the moment to protect it. Thank you for your leadership and your commitment to the patients we serve.
Thank you. Next, Elizabeth Martins.
My name is Elizabeth Martins. I live in the year-round shelter at Progress Place, and I have lived there for just over a year after having been at other shelters, including Interfaith Works Women's Empowerment Center at Crabs Branch, Interfaith Works Empowerment Center at 2 Taft and Rainbow. I am a member of the Food Justice Coalition and Housing Justice Montgomery advocacy groups. As a member of the Food Justice Coalition, we value food accessibility, affordability, and sovereignty for every single person in Montgomery County. We see these values reflected in the programs and grants of the Office of Food Systems Resiliency and urge the County Council to add supplemental funding and programming to sustain them. I am also the youngest granddaughter of a farmer and shipbuilder from North Carolina. That is why I'm here today, to make an appeal to you to help local farmers and growers who deserve incentives, especially when real estate taxes go up and as other funding decreases. For example, federal grants and programs on climate resilience and sustainability that have been affected by current presidential administration. Also, as an example, if local growers had tax breaks written into the policy that they could rely on, rather than agricultural use assessments like the closed federal peanut allotment, which may or may not lead to tax benefits, then fresh produce could be more affordable. In essence, local growers and farmers in the community would be fairly compensated for their good deeds. Programs such as the Food to Farm Bank and the Resident and Community Garden Grants similarly operate, fund local growers, and ensure produce is more affordable and accessible to community members, while compensating local farmers. Additional funding towards these grants could make these programs and take these programs to the next step in building local food systems resilience. It will lead to fair, livable compensation for farmers. Protecting the proposed enhancement to the food systems education grant, which will offer training in community gardens, will also support farmers and small growers throughout Montgomery County. This would also increase the yield of high-quality, nutritious food. Without investing additional funds or incentives, it is not clear how farmers and community garden growers can continue to operate over the coming years. Because I witnessed my grandfather taking trips between Virginia and North Carolina to help his father tend the farms, I understand the benefits of having high-quality food, fresh food that is, from the farm to the table. I have also seen the benefits of generous donors who give the first fruits of their crops and livestock to the homeless shelters. It would be nice if Montgomery County Council could ensure that future generations see the same by meaningfully investing in these programs. Respectfully, I ask the County Council to protect the food systems education enhancement in the budget and invest more into the Farm to Food Bank program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have David Pendleton.
Madam President and members of the council, hello, my name is David Pendleton. I'm the Safety and Legislative Director for the Transportation Division of SMART. I've had the good pleasure of speaking with many of you about our issue, and I want to say thank you for the numerous dialogues that I've had. Today I am here in opposition to County Executive Elridge's plan to modify the municipal solid waste plan by closing Dickerson Generating Station and long hauling the county's waste via diesel truck. The stated reasons for wanting to do so is addressing concerns about environmental injustice and public health. If this proposal goes through, it will have the opposite effect on achieving these aims. A study of waste to energy technologies by the Joint Institute for Strategic Energy Analysis for the U.S. Department of Energy under the Obama administration concluded that waste to energy is a refined, clean, well-managed application for energy production. Waste to energy technology is recognized as a greenhouse gas mitigation tool by the U.S. EPA, Columbia University's Earth Engineering Center, the World Economic Forum, and the Joint Institute for Strategic Energy Analysis. In 1 year, Dickerson keeps nearly 1.2 million metric tons of CO2 out of the air, recovers enough energy for power 30,000 homes or 70,000 electric cars, generates $24 million in revenues for the county, while also providing good-paying union jobs and the subsequent revenues generated by them. Dickerson operates well within Maryland's environmental standards and is key to helping Montgomery County reach its recycling goals. Currently in the mornings, waste is transported into the facility. In the evenings, non-toxic stabilized ash is transported out via rail. Environmentally speaking, rail is the most efficient form of transporting freight in the world. These two trains that are staffed by my members keep nearly 140 million pounds of CO2 out of the air annually. Employees at DGS are technically skilled and are Montgomery County residents. DGS provides stable, long-term, well-paying jobs while simultaneously infusing dollars into the local economy through the purchase of local goods and services. Why take these good jobs away from Montgomery County? There are overlooked costs of closing Dickerson, the cost to remediate the land, the cost of landfilling the waste over the long terms, and the liability cost of the county for landfill contamination. Since ReRoad reports that Dickerson processed 548,000 tons of county's waste, what really is the alternative here? Is it to move Montgomery County's waste to landfills in Virginia communities where the population is nearly 70% African American? What message is the county's moral document trying to send? Is it saying that it's environmentally just to poison the air of poor minorities by encouraging the release of methane gas, a substance which is 84 times more toxic than any pollution that is emitted at Dickerson? Is the county trying to say that it's okay to poison the drinking water for minority communities by encouraging the leaks of garbage juice? Or maybe is the county trying to say that because we're a rich county, you poor people figure out how to deal with our trash? Because this is exactly what the county will be saying if this plan is allowed to proceed. Currently, Dickerson disposes of the county's waste without any of these harmful environmental effects. while powering homes and keeping Montgomery's own residents employed. And I just trust that you will please consider this before making your decision.
I appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Next, we have Mr. Harold Maldonado.
Good afternoon, council members. Good afternoon, President Nathy Gonzalez. My name is Harold Maldonado. I am a longtime resident of Montgomery County, school product of Albert Einstein High School, and a GOP Republican candidate for the county council this year. But I will respect and not go into any election debate or anything like that. But I wanted to first tell you that I reject the budget proposed by Eldridge, and I wanted to highlight something for all of you, including the people who are listening online and the people who are present here. Let's talk about the truth about the fuel energy tax and how this government has used it. For years, this tax has been sold to the public as if it were about climate, sustainability, and green investment. But when you follow the money, what you find is something very different. A tax dressed up as green energy that functions primarily as a revenue machine for county government. You're lying to residents. The county's own budget records show that the fuel energy tax has brought an enormous revenue year after year, averaging $185 million a year since 2022. About $1 billion in just 5 years, and about $2.5 billion since 2013. And yet, for most of this tax history, the overwhelming majority of the money did not go into green programs, green energy, or environmental transformation. It went to the general fund. That means residents were paying higher utility-related costs while you treated this tax as a blank check for general spending. This is not transparency. This is not accountability. And frankly, that is exactly the kind of budget abuse that destroys public trust. Residents are sick and tired of being your ATMs. Residents are sick and tired of being lied to. And residents are sick and tired of your incompetence. Because when taxpayers hear energy tax, they reasonably assume that money is being used for energy and environmental purposes. But for years, you have used that label while funneling most of the revenue into the same growing bureaucracy that always wants money, more spending, and less scrutiny. That is the definition of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is how bloated government hides behind feel-good language. And this is how residents end up paying more while getting less honesty from you guys. In 2022, the county finally required a 10% of energy fuel tax.
Thank you. It's 3 minutes, but thank you for coming, okay? You can send the rest. With that, thank you so much to everyone who came here today. We're going to move on to our virtual session, and we're going to start with Sharon Dichi. Is she on?
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and members of the County Council. I'm Sharon Dichi, the Executive Director of NAMI Montgomery County, also known as NAMI MC. At NAMI MC, we offer free, peer-led support groups, classes, resources, and advocacy for those affected by mental health issues and their families. Today, we have a number of advocates there in person. Robin, Julie, Lily, Reka, and Meryl are all there in person today. For the 2027 budget, we have 4 priorities. First, we urge you to fund the use of certified peer support specialists at the Montgomery County Correctional Facility. The support of certified peer specialists has been shown to facilitate medication adherence, decrease psychotic symptoms, reduce depression, and improve social functioning among people with mental illness who are incarcerated. The support of certified peers would especially benefit detainees in the crisis intervention unit who languish in jail for months while waiting for a state hospital bed. Second, we ask you to fund the 8 proposed mobile crisis outreach teams. This will move the county closer to ensuring that people in crisis get the right specialized care when they need it the most. Third, fully fund the proposed 18 staff positions at the Behavioral Health Crisis Stabilization Center. HHS is expanding these services to meet growing needs, especially for youth. But without enough staff, the center cannot run at full capacity. We need a 24/7 walk-in facility that can take the pressure off of emergency rooms and support first responders. Lastly, we ask you to sustain funding of the 988 crisis hotline at Every Mind and expand public awareness of 988. More residents need to know that 988 is available so that mental health concerns can be treated as health issues and not criminal ones. Mental health services are essential, especially now as federal supports are being cut. When people don't get help early, problems get worse and cost more for everyone. We appreciate your continued commitment to individuals living with mental health conditions and their families. NAMI-MC is equally committed to being there for our community. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Next, we have Amy Jabaid.
Yes. Good afternoon, esteemed members of the Council, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, and Council Vice President Balcom. Thank you for the opportunity to share thoughts on the upcoming proposed FY27 budget. My name is Amy Jabaid, and I serve as the President and CEO of A Wider Circle. We are a social service provider offering furniture, household goods, professional clothing, and an array of support services to county residents in need. Last year, we furnished close to 3,000 homes, and half of all of our clients come from Montgomery County. Clients come to us from an array of partners and for various reasons. They've done so for 25 years, and we are incredibly grateful to the Council, many across the county, friends, and other partners beyond who have invested in our work and our mission to date. We are proud to serve within the county safety net ecosystem, standing alongside incredible partners. Close coordination with these partners is vital, as we know many of those we serve also require the services of what is offered beyond A Wider Circle. We request reconsideration of the proposed 2.5% COLA increase for Montgomery County contracts as listed in the proposed budget. A Wider Circle respectfully requests an 8% increase. We understand the challenging times and the difficult decisions before you. The current proposal will threaten our service continuity, our workforce stability, and our ability to meet the growing community needs. Social services and safety net providers in the county are at a breaking point. In this past year, A Wider Circle has had former volunteers and even former financial donors become clients as jobs are cut and expenses rise. Additionally, we are seeing significant increases in the number of people seeking help, greater urgency and complexity involving housing instability, food insecurity, health crises, and economic distress. These realities require more staff time per client, stronger follow-up, and higher quality care, currently without corresponding increases in funding. Our staff are also in crisis. Real wages have declined, frontline workers are falling further behind, and many who work a full-time job also take on part-time work and still struggle to survive. Some nonprofit employees are also actually on the verge of relying on the services they help provide. This situation is unsustainable and deeply concerning. Operating costs are surging, utility, rent, insurance, transportation, and more. These are unavoidable expenses that current contracts simply do not cover. Without an 8% COLA, our capacity to serve clients will shrink, experienced staff will leave, critical services will be disrupted, and investments will be at risk. An 8% increase is not an expansion, it is a survival measure. We thank you in advance for your careful consideration of this budget proposal of an increase from 2.5% to 8% in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Samir Ahmed.
Good afternoon, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Vice President Balcom, and fellow council members. My name is Samir Ahmed, and I'm here to testify in favor of fully funding our schools in the fiscal year 2027 budget proposal. Earlier today, I was having a conversation with my ceramics teacher, and they began to complain about how the kilns kept breaking down and have frequently voiced concerns about the lack of funding for the arts department. If we as a county are so focused on providing world-class schools to our students, then we need to ensure that we properly fund our institutions. You don't get vital institutions by cutting parts of school budgets. and our teachers are already stretched thin. If we ask to fully fund our schools, then we cannot ask teachers to do more with less. I understand the budget issues facing our county and that we cannot tax ourselves out of disaster, but we cannot adopt a policy of austerity during times of recession either. Even a high schooler with an economics credit can understand the danger of pursuing this path. We can instead fund our educational institutions, giving students what they need to succeed. With that, we can prove that despite the consistent abuses and funding cuts from the federal administration, students in this county with some of the best education can get some of that in the country, in turn attracting economic development, housing production, and new families, something the county desperately needs. I understand the dire financial situation that we face as a county and that these are unprecedented times, but together as a county, we can get through this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Shannon Ingram.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Shannon Ingram, representing Soul Counseling and Consulting as a therapist. I'm here to offer testimony in support of continued funding and partnership with the Black Physicians and Healthcare Network, or BPHN, and to share how this collaboration has directly impacted access to care in Montgomery County. Through our work with BPHN, Soul Counseling and Consulting has been able to expand its reach and connect with clients we might not otherwise have been able to serve. BPHN serves as a trusted bridge between providers and the community, particularly for individuals who have historically faced barriers to accessing culturally responsive care. Because of this partnership, we have received referrals from Montgomery County residents who are actively seeking therapists who understand their lived experiences and can meet their specific needs. As a result, we have been able to assist clients with very targeted therapy requests, whether that includes trauma-informed care, culturally competent mental health services, or support in navigating life transitions and systemic stressors. These are not just general requests for therapy, they are intentional asks for care that feels safe, affirming, and effective. And through BPHN, those needs are being clearly communicated and met. I also want to highlight the strong and effective working relationship between BPHN and the health navigators. This collaboration is critical. Health navigators are often the first point of contact for individuals seeking support, and their ability to connect clients with appropriate providers is greatly enhanced by BPHN's network. From a provider perspective, this coordination improves outcomes, reduces gaps in care, and builds trust within the community. From a client perspective, it means they are not left to navigate complex systems alone. In closing, I urge you to continue supporting the work of BPHN. This is not just about funding an organization, it's about sustaining a system of care that is responsive, equitable, and deeply needed in Montgomery County. Our experience at Soul Counseling is just one example of how this partnership is making a meaningful difference. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Mitchell Crispo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Mitch Crispell. I work for True Ground Housing Partners. We're a leading nonprofit affordable housing developer in the DMV area. We currently operate over 250 affordable homes in Montgomery County, and we have the potential to build nearly 1,000 more on our Woodside Place property near the Silver Spring Transit Center. That's why I'm here today, is to urge you to support affordable housing investments above and beyond the levels proposed in the county executive's draft FY27 budget. Of course, I do want to also say thank you for the investments already included in the budget and in the past. These substantial sums allocated for housing acquisition and preservation will lead to many more affordable units for existing residents. But we really need a lot more than that. We continue to face a big shortage of new homes for people who want to move here but can't afford to. The latest housing needs assessment identifies a need for more than 47,000 additional homes affordable at the 50% AMI level and below. Since 2020, when that report came out, we've built on average only a few hundred new homes annually. So at that rate, it would take more than 70 years to meet the county's own identified target. In the meantime, it means that many Montgomery County workers, like healthcare assistants, retail, childcare, have to commute far away from multiple counties over. You guys know all of this, but I think it drives home the point that making more homes for people at those income levels is crucial not just for inclusivity, but also for economic development in the county and the functioning of the local economy. So to speed up production and meet the need for affordable homes, we urge you to invest more in the county's Housing Investment Fund and the Affordable Housing Opportunity Funds. The Montgomery Housing Alliance, an association of nonprofit developers in the county, has identified projects with more than 3,500 homes that are ready to go to start construction and become reality. To meet the immediate needs of these projects, we ask that at a minimum, the county increase affordable housing funding by $20 million to equal the funding level of previous years. If we do that, we can unlock those 3,500 homes this year. We understand that you have a difficult job deciding how to allocate limited funds, so we humbly ask that you prioritize affordable housing in this budget. I'd also want to highlight a few non-budgetary measures that you can take to help solve the housing shortage. Principally, it's zoning and permitting changes to support more diverse housing types by right across the county. We encourage you to follow through on the Thrive 2050 vision by adopting the attainable housing strategies identified by Montgomery Planning. Those recommendations would allow more naturally attainable housing types across the county to get built with private capital without any need for public subsidies. We also encourage you to support zoning for more housing in the Eastern Silver Spring Communities Plan, Friendship Heights Sector Plan, and other master planning efforts from Montgomery Planning. By zoning for more housing in these plans, the county can help streamline housing approvals, which can save money and make for a more efficient use of scarce public resources. Thank you so much for your attention and dedication to housing current residents.
Thank you for coming. Next, Stephen Finley.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Good afternoon, council members, and thank you very much for your perseverance over the last 3 days. My name is Stephen Finley. I'm testifying today on behalf of Sugarloaf Citizens Association. SCA is a civic and environmental group based in Dickerson, represents the interests of about 300 local residents, most of whom live within 10 miles of the trash incinerator. I testified today in support of the county executive's proposed waste management budget. We will submit a more detailed written statement, so today I just want to make a few quick points. We deeply appreciate that trash disposal has become more complex, as recycling, composting, and waste volume reduction have become more sophisticated and better. So yes, we totally understand that you want to get it right. But the county executive and the council have put this responsibility off for many, many years. That inertia, we believe, must now end. After 3 years of analysis by DEP and its contractors, a sound proposal for phase 1 of a major change in trash management is before you. The time to act on that proposal is now. Further delay will be a disservice to the county's residents. So please stop burning our trash, stop propping up an aging incinerator, stop polluting our environment and putting the county's health at risk. Stop listening to people who are aligned with the incinerator industry. Instead, please start this year on the transition to environmentally sound landfilling. Start this year adopting a system that incentivizes waste volume reduction. Start later this year and in 2027, fully evaluating advanced waste processing. This council has rightly observed that this project is a once-in-a-generation change. For MoCo's future generations, as well as those who live here now, let's not delay any further. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next, Caroline Taylor.
Hi, I'm Caroline Taylor with Montgomery Countryside Alliance, and thank you for hanging in there. We join many in support of our parks and their budget request. We also support the budget that calls for high-quality natural grass playing fields and applying savings to critical building infrastructure needs of many of our public schools. Yesterday, the sole source aquifer was mentioned. As many know, this drinking water source is a chief focus of MCA, and that it is a fragile, unconfined, potable water source serving a third of the county's geography. The record is brimming with science that underscores the human and environmental concerns with the use of synthetic materials on our children's playing fields. And I urge you to support the budget in its long overdue transition away from incinerating our trash. I seek to inform the record about environmental justice, climate, and cost. I served on the county's Aiming for Zero Waste Task Force. In 2021, the most comprehensive analysis of 42 available landfills was done in the Beyond Incineration report. The investigation revealed that the landfill destination for our county's toxic incinerator ash in Richmond, Virginia, is a community with the largest Black population, with more Black residents living within 5 miles than most of the region's landfills combined. Testimony heard today and yesterday surprisingly argued that we maintain the status quo and dump the toxic incinerator ash on a more populated community of color in Lorton, Virginia, arguing that this is more equitable. But it is one of the rare landfills in Virginia that has more people and more people of color than where we currently landfill our ash. My written testimony will provide more detail. Suffice it to say that equity is at the center of our position on this matter. On climate impacts, incinerators pose significantly more risk and certainly do not advance the county's important climate change goals. In part, this is because plastics do not break down in the landfill. They immediately become CO2 in the atmosphere when it is burned. In a landfill, that carbon stays put. The Beyond Incineration study of our incinerator found it to be twice as damaging to the climate than landfills in our region. This study accounted for all possible greenhouse gas emissions. On cost, DEP cited Arcadis' report concluding that removing the incinerator for long-term use would cost taxpayers $365 million. The way to reduce waste and save money is to close the aging and dangerous to public health incinerator, move forward with waste reduction initiatives. DEP has well documented how closing by January as planned would cost about the same as keeping it open for a few more years and cost far less than dumping $365 million into it. Thank you. Yay.
Thank you. Next, Carrie Kasicki.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your time today. My name is Carrie Kasicki. I'm the Maryland Housing Advocacy Manager with the Coalition for Smarter Growth. I also serve on the executive committee of the Montgomery Housing Alliance. CSG joins with our fellow MHA members in strongly encouraging the council to allocate additional funding for production and preservation of affordable housing. I know you've heard this many times before, but the current budget includes about $100 million for affordable housing compared to an anticipated $169 million need for projects that are already in the pipeline for the next year, representing the hard work of, I want to take the time to say, because CSG is a advocacy organization and not, a housing provider, those projects in the pipeline represent the extremely admirable and hard work of my peers, the members of MHA and others in our county. And that $100 million is a roughly $20 million cut from the funding levels over the last 2 years. Affordable housing is a good investment. When we cut back on the investments we make in affordable homes, we still pay the price. We lose tax revenue to other jurisdictions when people who want to live here, who are workers, who pay taxes, cannot afford to live here because we didn't build the homes that meet their price needs. And we also pay not just in dollars, but more importantly in the pain and uncertainty of our neighbors and our community members when instead of providing affordable homes and the supportive homes for folks with disabilities, for seniors that they need, we have to address the myriad health and other needs that flow from housing instability. So please do what you can to increase funding for affordable housing and make sure that the homes already in the pipeline can move forward. Finally, CSG asks for your support for the county's ride-on bus service and the bus priority program. People across our county depend on the bus, especially low-income riders, and they depend on having reliable service that gets them where they need to go when they need to be there. That requires reliable funding. And the bus priority program specifically is I think kind of under, it's not talked about enough, but it is actually a really cost-effective way to improve service, to provide very quick turnarounds for better bus service for people in common sense ways. So, please provide funding for that to the extent you can as well. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Last but not least, Mike Ewell.
Hey, good afternoon, Council President and Council members. My name is Mike Ewell, Executive Director of Energy Justice Network, a national organization working closely with our member groups Zero Waste Montgomery County and Sherwood Oaks Citizens Association. I encourage Council's support of the budget's move to end incineration. The trash incinerator is the county's #1 industrial air polluter by far, especially now that the adjacent power plant is no longer burning coal. Some claim that it does not degrade local air quality despite the obvious public data showing it to be a large and toxic polluter, and the recent violations at 2 of the incinerator's 3 burners, where the plant has been emitting dioxins, the most toxic chemicals known to science, above legal limits for an unknown time that could have been as long as a year since the previous tests. Dioxins are persistent chemicals that bioaccumulate climbing up the food chain. They travel thousands of miles and there's no safe distance or dose. These toxic pollutants contribute to cancers, birth defects, learning disabilities, sexual reproductive disorders, and much more. Pollution levels don't start over at 0 each year, but build up. These dioxins will be present in your meat and dairy products for years to come, and the county's babies will be drinking it in breast milk when they nurse. In 2021, we published the Beyond Incineration Report. It included a life cycle analysis that documented this county's incinerator to be twice as bad for the climate and 3.2 times more harmful overall compared to landfills. And this is without looking at dioxin data since there was a lack of good data for comparison. A couple of commenters yesterday came and promoted continued use of incineration despite repeating their misinformation despite the fact that we have carefully debunked their statement with documentation which they apparently did not read or understand. They argue that we should follow the lead of the US EPA, which has a waste hierarchy that prefers incineration over landfilling, contradicting the internationally peer-reviewed zero waste hierarchy that forbids incineration. Montgomery County has a zero waste plan that commits to zero waste and ending incineration while following the zero waste hierarchy. Yet EPA's hierarchy, by contrast, does not have science to back it up. In fact, top EPA staff met with us 4 years ago and admitted to having no documentation to back up the placement of incineration above landfilling in their hierarchy, which they committed to revisit. However, that commitment is on hold during this Trump administration. Finally, incinerator ash is far more toxic than trash. It is not safe, it is not inert, it is a serious threat to groundwater and can also blow off of landfills into communities where toxic particles can be inhaled or ingested. There are several landfill options that are not in communities of color, like the Black community where this ash is currently being dumped near Richmond, and are in far less populated areas where the county should send unburned trash instead of more toxic ash as it works to reduce waste overall. Thank you so much. I'll give you your last 6 seconds back.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we heard from 216 people over the last 5 public hearings. No, now you may. Thank you so much to everyone who showed up today. And this is not over. You can continue connecting with us. We love hearing from each one of you because this is how we make policy, when we hear from each other and challenge each other. So with that, we are adjourned and this public hearing is now closed.